Have you ever asked yourself why you're still not where you want to be, even though you're doing everything right? The truth is, most people fail not because of what they're doing, but because of what they're unwilling to stop doing. You can be smart, hardworking, and highly motivated, and still stay stuck. Why? Because there are invisible traps that sabotage your progress quietly every single day. In this video, you'll discover 7 things you absolutely must avoid if you want to build real wealth. Not hype, not luck, but steady, lasting financial freedom. And the last one? It's the most dangerous of all because it disguises itself as ambition. So if you're ready to break old patterns and finally move forward, subscribe now, not just to this channel, but to the decision that you're done playing small. The first thing to avoid if you want to be rich is this: working only for money. At first glance, it seems logical. Most people believe the purpose of work is to earn a paycheck. So they choose jobs based on how much they pay, not who they'll become by doing them. But here's the trap. If you only work for money, your future will always be limited by what someone else is willing to pay you. Let's look at 2 common paths. Path A. You land a stable job with decent pay. You start earning. Your lifestyle improves. People around you approve. But here's what happens over time. Your learning slows. Your role becomes predictable. Your income plateaus. You're trading time for money, and there's a ceiling above your head. Path B. You take a role that pays less, but forces you to grow. It stretches your skills. You struggle at first, maybe even feel like you're falling behind. But beneath the surface, something powerful is happening. You're becoming more valuable. And soon, you're no longer just working for a paycheck. You're building leverage. This is the difference between working in the system and working to eventually own a piece of it. Every financially independent person understands this. They didn't get rich by choosing comfort. They got rich by choosing growth. That's the real cost of working only for money. You sacrifice who you could become for what feels safe right now. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow, but you do need to stop thinking like an employee who's just clocking in. You need to start thinking like an asset in development. Here's the mindset shift. Stop asking, what does this job pay? Start asking, what skills am I building? What problems am I learning to solve? How am I becoming harder to replace? Because money follows value, and value comes from mastery, not motion. The world doesn't reward effort, it rewards effectiveness. This is especially important in today's economy, because even stable jobs aren't stable anymore. Automation is rising. Competition is global. Companies are leaner. The only real security is the value you bring, not your title, not your tenure. So how do you escape the just for money trap? Here's a practical framework. Identify a high-value skill, something the market rewards heavily. Copywriting, coding, sales, video editing, digital marketing, problem solving, leadership. Pick one. Integrate it into your current reality. You don't need to leave your job, but you can volunteer for new projects. You can take an online course after hours. You can offer to help others in that area for free, just to gain experience. Track your evolution. Every week, ask, what did I learn? What did I apply? Where did I improve? This shifts you from worker to builder, and that's where real leverage begins. Because here's the truth. You are your most valuable asset. Not your job, not your paycheck. You. When you think like a builder, everything changes. You start to notice gaps in your industry and fill them. You start to get offers, not chase them. You start to see money not as a reward for time, but as a reflection of the problems you solve. And that's where freedom begins. Let others chase titles. Let them stay loyal to companies that treat them like a line item. You build skills. You build systems. You build yourself. Because when you do, money becomes a byproduct, not the goal. And if this resonates with you so far, don't forget to subscribe. This kind of clarity is just the beginning. The second thing to avoid if you want to be rich is deceptively simple and quietly destructive. Chasing a lifestyle you can't afford. It doesn't always start with greed. Often, it starts with progress. You get a raise. You close a few deals. Your monthly income increases. And suddenly, Things that once felt like luxuries now feel justified. A better car, a bigger apartment, a deserved trip. You're not being irresponsible. You're rewarding yourself, right? But here's the danger. When your expenses grow in sync with your income, you're not building wealth, you're running in place. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the fastest ways to stay broke with style. You look successful on the outside, but financially, nothing has changed. Let's make it real. Imagine someone who goes from earning $3,000 a month to $6,000. Instead of saving or investing the difference, they double their rent, upgrade their car, and eat out 5 nights a week. Their quality of life might improve for a few months, until a small emergency wipes out their cushion. And just like that, they're right back in survival mode, despite earning twice as much. That's the core issue. When your money grows, but your behavior stays the same, you don't escape the struggle, you just dress it up. This pursuit of lifestyle isn't driven by logic, it's driven by comparison. You see others traveling, upgrading, posting, and it creates a quiet pressure to match that standard, even if it's financially dangerous. Social media didn't invent this problem, but it poured gasoline on it. Because now, we don't just see luxury, we see it every day from people who are faking it better than we are. And when you're constantly bombarded by highlight reels, it's easy to mistake debt for success. But let's get clear. Most people posting rich don't own what they're showing. They're renting lifestyles to impress people who are doing the same thing. It's a cycle of illusion, and it's very, very expensive. Real wealth doesn't scream. It doesn't need a logo or a lease to feel valuable. Real wealth shows up in peace of mind, not payment plans. The trap of lifestyle chasing isn't just financial, it's psychological. Because the more you buy to feel successful, the more you reinforce the belief that you are not enough without those things. You start defining your value by what you wear, drive, or display, not by who you are becoming. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Because your money should reflect your values, not your insecurities. So here's the shift. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" ask, "Will this increase or decrease my freedom?" That single question can change your entire approach to money. Because that's what wealth is really about, freedom. Not showing off, but waking up with options. Not impressing others, but never needing to. Let's get practical. Next time you feel the urge to upgrade your life, pause. Before buying the car, the phone, the trip, ask yourself, what would happen if I redirected this money into something that grows? What if I chose peace over performance? You don't need to stop living well. You just need to stop living for validation. Try this. Pick one area of your spending where you've been inflating just to feel caught up, dining out, designer items, expensive tech. Cut that spending in half and reallocate the difference into a simple investment. Index funds, dividend stocks, even a savings account if that's where you need to start. Track it for 90 days. Watch how much further that money goes when it works for you instead of just entertaining you. And as that account grows, so will your sense of control. Because the truth is, anyone can look rich for a weekend, but the person who builds real wealth? They're too busy planting seeds to show off the fruit. Let others flex. You invest. Let them buy today. You buy back your future. Because if you're always trying to look rich, you'll never have the patience to become rich. The third thing to avoid if you want to be rich is this: trying to do everything by yourself. It sounds noble, even admirable. The idea that you can figure it all out on your own. That you can grind harder, learn faster, and outwork the competition solo. But this mindset? It's a trap. A silent limiter that keeps talented people stuck. Because here's the truth. No one builds anything great alone. Not in business. Not in wealth. Not in life. Look closer at every successful person or brand you admire. Behind it, there's a team, a mentor, a partnership, people with different strengths and perspectives, people who bring what you can't and make you better in the process. Doing everything yourself might feel efficient at first, but in the long run, it becomes exhausting and expensive. You start spending time on tasks that don't grow your results. You wear 10 hats, but master none. You become your biggest bottleneck. This is especially common in the early stages of entrepreneurship. You start a project or side hustle and try to be the strategist, the designer, the editor, the accountant, the marketer. But as the workload increases, your clarity decreases. You burn time on things others could do faster and better. And worst of all, you miss out on the one thing you should be focused on, scaling your impact. Let's be clear. This doesn't mean outsourcing everything on day one. It means understanding that wealth creation is a team sport, and the sooner you learn to collaborate, delegate, or automate, the faster you'll grow. There's also a mindset block here. People think asking for help makes them look weak or unqualified. But in reality, it takes far more strength to build something with others than to burn out alone. There are two ways to buy back your time. With money, delegating tasks. Or with strategy, using tools that do the heavy lifting for you. Start with whichever you can afford. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're trying to build a personal brand. You could spend 3 hours a day editing videos, or you could hire someone for $15 per hour to do it better, freeing up your time to plan, sell, or record. Or maybe you're building a store. Instead of trying to code everything manually, you could use all-in-one platforms that design, host, and integrate with just a few clicks. The same goes for learning. Trying to figure it out alone might feel like the noble path, but it's not the fast one. Stop listening to 20 podcasts hoping something clicks. Instead, find one source, one expert, one model, and go deep. Build skill through focus. Build results through leverage. Even large companies grow this way. They don't invent every tool they use. They integrate what already works. They don't rely on one person for every decision. They form teams with diverse strengths. Why should it be any different for you? Let's talk identity. If you want to build wealth, you have to start thinking like a builder, not a performer. Builders use resources. Performers try to impress by doing it all themselves. So ask yourself, are you really being resourceful or just performing independence? Real freedom isn't doing everything alone. It's doing what only you can do and building systems, people, and tools to handle the rest. Practical step? List the 3 things you do most often that don't move the needle. Then ask, can I delegate this affordably? Can I automate it? Can I eliminate it completely? Start with 1. Because every hour you free is an hour you can reinvest in thinking, creating, scaling, and growing. And now let's talk. What's one thing you're still trying to do all by yourself? And what's stopping you from changing that? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them, and so do others. And sometimes, clarity starts with just one honest response. The 4th thing to avoid if you want to be rich is subtle, but it's everywhere. Listening to too many voices. Information is not your enemy, but excess information without direction is a trap and one of the most overlooked causes of failure today. We live in a world where everyone has advice. One person says, start a business. Another says, get a stable job. A third tells you, just invest in crypto. Meanwhile, your family wants you to play it safe, your friends want you to follow the crowd, and social media is screaming 20 different strategies a day. All of them sound right. All of them sound urgent. And the result? Mental overload, cognitive paralysis, constant second-guessing. Imagine this. You're standing in the center of a giant maze, holding a compass. But instead of following it, you let 10 people shout at you at once, each pointing in a different direction. Every 5 minutes, you change course. You don't move forward, you just get exhausted. That's what listening to too many voices does to your financial future. It scatters your attention. It kills your momentum. And worst of all, it makes you doubt your own path, even when you're on the right track. Because clarity isn't found in noise, it's found in focus. Here's the shift. Stop asking, who should I listen to? Start asking, who has the life I want? And what are they doing consistently? One voice with results is worth more than 50 with opinions. Let's break this down. Every time you take advice, you're absorbing more than information. You're absorbing direction. You're shaping your next decision based on someone else's lens. So if you're not careful, you end up chasing outcomes you never even wanted. Building businesses you don't believe in. trying habits that don't fit your identity, and wasting years becoming a version of success that was never yours to begin with. Covey would call this a misalignment between true north and external noise. So what's the solution? It starts with deciding where you're going. Even if the destination isn't crystal clear, choose a direction that aligns with your values and desired lifestyle. Then, and only then, filter inputs through that lens. Does this advice move me toward my goals, or just distract me with urgency? Let's get practical. Audit your inputs. List out who you're regularly listening to: podcasts, creators, influencers, friends, mentors. Ask one question for each. Does this person live in a way I'd want to replicate, or are they just entertaining to watch? Cut the noise. You don't need more voices. You need the right ones, at the right time, for the right goal. This doesn't mean ignoring new ideas. It means controlling the flow, learning on purpose, not by accident. Even when you do get advice, stop absorbing passively. Instead, implement deeply. If you learn a new strategy, apply it for 30 days before jumping to the next. Build confidence not by knowing more, but by doing more with what you already know. Because there's a hidden danger here. Too much learning without doing creates the illusion of progress. You feel productive, but you're not producing. You feel busy, but you're not building. And the longer you stay in that loop, the harder it is to break free. Here's a phrase to remember. The confused mind says no. No to action. No to risk. No to commitment. Because when everything feels like a good idea, nothing gets done. Wealth doesn't come from dabbling in 100 things. It comes from going deep in a few and mastering the discipline to shut out the rest. So if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or indecisive, maybe it's not because you're unmotivated. Maybe it's just because your mind is tired of being pulled in too many directions. You don't need more advice. You need a clear path and the courage to walk it. The fifth thing to avoid if you want to be rich is something that ruins people without them even noticing. Letting ego run the show. The ego doesn't walk in shouting. It whispers. And that's what makes it so dangerous. It tells you that you already know enough, that you're too smart to need help. That feedback is criticism, and learning is for beginners. But here's the truth. Ego is the enemy of growth. And in the world of money, it's a silent wealth killer. Ego convinces people to fake success instead of building it, to look like they're winning, even when they're not, to chase attention instead of results. It's the voice that says, I don't need to study this, I've got it. That advice doesn't apply to me. I'm beyond this step. But the ones who truly win, they never stop learning, not because they're unsure, but because they know that mastery is a process, not a finish line. There's a concept called the iceberg principle. What you know is just the tip. What you don't know, that's the massive structure beneath the surface. The problem is, ego makes you forget that it's even there. Think about it. Most people want to be rich, but as soon as they hear something they think they already know, they tune out. They don't ask, how can I apply this better? They say, yeah, I've heard that before. And just like that, they block themselves from the very insight that could change their trajectory. Ego also creates a trap called premature optimization. It's when someone skips steps because they're focused on the end game. They want to scale before they've stabilized. They want to invest before they understand. They want recognition before they've earned results. But building wealth isn't about appearances. It's about quiet decisions made consistently with humility. Humility isn't weakness. It's strategy. It says, I don't know everything yet. There's still more to improve. Someone else might know better, and that's a good thing. This mindset opens doors that ego slams shut. Let's go deeper. Ego-driven people often avoid starting small because it makes them feel less than. They don't want to post a first video that gets 5 views. They don't want to start a business that earns $300 in the first month. But here's the reality. Every master looked like a beginner at first. What separates them from the rest isn't talent. It's the ability to stay focused when nobody's watching, to improve without applause, to show up without being seen yet. Practical step. Next time you find yourself dismissing an idea, pause. Ask, Have I truly mastered this? Or am I just familiar with it? Am I avoiding this because I know it won't help? Or because I don't want to feel like a beginner again? Ego makes you protect your image. Growth makes you protect your potential. You have to choose. Want a shortcut? Do the thing that makes you feel slightly uncomfortable, the thing your ego resists. Reach out to someone smarter. Ask for feedback. Study the basics again. Stay quiet. Observe, absorb. Because the less you need to prove you're winning, the faster you start winning. Here's the identity shift. People stuck in ego are chasing the appearance of power. People building wealth are chasing actual power, the kind that doesn't need to be seen. Let others chase status. You chase skill. Let others talk. You build. The richest minds in the world don't shout. They study. They ask questions. They act, quietly, consistently, without ego. And that's why they win. The sixth thing to avoid if you want to be rich is one of the most common and one of the most invisible: blaming external factors. It sounds like this. The system is rigged. My boss never gave me a chance. People like me don't get ahead. I didn't grow up with money. How am I supposed to compete? And on the surface, it all sounds true. Because yes, the world can be unfair. Opportunities are not evenly distributed. There are obstacles, biases, and broken systems. But here's the problem. The moment you give those obstacles full control over your future, you stop looking for solutions. Blame might feel good in the moment. It gives you a story, a reason, a justification for why things haven't worked out yet. But that story has a cost. Because every time you point the finger outward, you lose power inward. Here's a simple truth. You cannot build wealth from a place of helplessness. And blame is a mask for helplessness. Let's use a metaphor. Every day, you wake up with two objects in front of you, a mirror and a magnifying glass. One reflects you. The other zooms in on everything else. Most people reach for the magnifying glass. They focus on what's broken out there. They study what others have. They criticize the system, the government, the economy. They become experts in what's wrong, but stay passive in what's possible. The wealthy, the ones who actually change their reality, they reach for the mirror. They ask, what did I choose yesterday? What can I do differently today? Where am I still hiding behind excuses? And that doesn't mean ignoring injustice. It means refusing to surrender to it. There's a Chinese proverb that captures this beautifully. The man who blames others has a long way to go. The man who blames himself is halfway there. But the man who blames no one, he has already arrived. Because true power isn't about control over others. It's about control over yourself. And that begins with responsibility. Responsibility doesn't mean guilt. It means ownership. Ownership of your actions, your decisions, your future. When you choose responsibility over blame, everything changes. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop wishing. You start building. You stop waiting. You start moving. Let's make it practical. Next time something doesn't go your way, a deal falls through, a bill surprises you, a client ghosts, pause. Before reaching for an excuse, ask, what did I allow here? What could I have done differently? What will I change going forward? Even asking those questions reclaims power. Here's the trap most people fall into. They confuse fairness with control. They wait for the world to be fair before taking action. But if you wait for the perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. Wealth isn't built in perfect conditions. It's built in imperfect action. In people who look at chaos and say, okay, I'll build anyway. That's where the identity shift happens. From victim to creator. From life is happening to me to life is happening through me. That shift is everything. Because blaming others gives you comfort. But taking responsibility gives you freedom. One is emotional shelter. The other is emotional leverage. You choose. Let others sit in circles complaining about what's wrong. You sit in silence and fix what you can. Let them post about the unfairness. You build something that proves it's possible. Not because it's easy, but because you refuse to stay small in a world that already tried to shrink you. The seventh thing to avoid if you want to be rich is the quietest trap of all. Staying safe inside your comfort zone. It doesn't shout. It whispers, "It's fine here. It's not that bad. You've got time." And because it's not painful, most people stay. Not because they're lazy, but because comfort is seductive. It promises predictability, stability, familiarity. But what it rarely delivers is growth. Picture this. You're standing inside a circle. It feels safe. It's where your routines live, your habits breathe, and your fears stay quiet. But over time, that circle becomes smaller, not physically, but mentally. It becomes a self-imposed prison. No gates, no locks, just invisible limits reinforced by fear and habit. You're not stuck because of external walls. You're stuck because your internal voice keeps telling you, don't risk it, don't stand out, don't fail. And yet, that's where everything you want lies. On the other side of that invisible edge. Wealth, impact, confidence. None of those exist inside the comfort zone. Because comfort is designed for survival, not for expansion. Here's the danger. The longer you stay inside that space, the harder it becomes to believe there's anything beyond it. You normalize smallness. You accept good enough. And you quietly bury your potential under routines that no longer serve you. But let's be clear. Comfort isn't evil. It's just a signal. It tells you where you've paused for too long, where you've settled, where you've chosen familiarity over freedom. So how do you break it? Not by blowing up your life, not by taking reckless leaps, but by expanding the edges, one action at a time. Start here. Say yes to something that scares you, just a little. Speak up in the room you usually stay quiet in. Launch the idea you've been researching for 6 months. Post the video. Send a proposal. Ask the question. Each step you take beyond the circle redraws the boundary. It doesn't erase the fear, but it replaces it with evidence. Evidence that you can move, that you're adaptable, that the world didn't end just because you tried. And over time, that circle becomes bigger, not because the world changed, but because you did. You start to realize that growth doesn't always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels awkward, uncomfortable, lonely. But those moments, they're the proof that you're no longer playing small. Here's the truth. The comfort zone will cost you more than failure ever could, because failure teaches. But comfort sedates. One wakes you up. The other slowly puts you to sleep, with your dreams still inside you. Let this be your wake-up call. If you're watching this, it means something in you is ready. Ready to stop waiting for the right moment. Ready to stop asking for permission. Ready to live wider, louder, freer. And that's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you were before fear got in the way. So no, you don't need to blow up your life today. But you do need to choose one thing. One habit. One risk. One conversation. That pushes the line. Because nothing changes until you move. And now that you've seen the 7 things that quietly hold people back from wealth, it's your move. You don't need to be perfect. But if you stop doing these 7 things, your life will begin to change. Quietly, steadily, permanently. And if these words are resonating with you, don't stop here. The next video might be the exact push you didn't know you needed. Keep watching, because you're closer than you think. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Not just to follow the channel, but to remind yourself every day that you're done playing small. Around here, we don't just dream of change. We make it happen.